Here at Luminix, we are actively developing tooling to allow our developers to compile, bundle, and deploy Lightning Web components to run disconnected within the Pulsar for Salesforce mobile and desktop apps. Our primary design goal is to support the various Salesforce and Lightning data APIs, such that JavaScript code written to run on Salesforce servers will also run in Pulsar without modification. And this will also work while being completely disconnected. Note that this design goal only covers components written in JavaScript and/or TypeScript. We cannot handle VisualForce pages, Apex code, nor any other server-side specific tech within the offline Pulsar platform. Apex logic at a minimum would need to be rewritten in JavaScript so that it can run in Pulsar. In this proof of concept video, we will first show you a simple Lightning Web component accessing Salesforce data while running on Salesforce servers. Then we will show you the same component bundled differently and running disconnected on the Pulsar platform. And then we'll go into a technical discussion. Here is a Pulsar test Lightning Web component running on the home page of our test org. From a design perspective, you can see the Lightning Web component is pretty bare bones, a little rough edged, but this is purely meant to be a test case showing usages of Salesforce APIs. And here is another browser tab I have open showing that I have uploaded a zip file, which contains a single page web app, showcasing the Pulsar test LWC. This is what we want to see running in Pulsar. Switching to Pulsar running on Windows. Let's log into our test org. Note that I have previously synced all the data from this org, including the single page app upload I just showed you in the browser. For test completeness, let's switch Pulsar into offline mode. From the home page, let's go to the content library page, and now to the LWC folder. And now let's launch the single page app. And here's the same Pulsar test LWC running disconnected in Pulsar. Note where you see data discrepancies, we are still actively working on plumbing through the data APIs. So to recap, we have showed a Lightning Web component running on Salesforce servers and also running disconnected in Pulsar on Windows. The same LWC code will also run disconnected in Pulsar on Android, iOS, and on macOS with Apple Silicon. We can move on to a technical description of how this is all put together. In order to run Lightning Web components in Pulsar, we have been developing our own modifications to the Salesforce LWC toolchain on GitHub. And the Lightning Web components themselves are embedded within a single page app framework called Lightning Web Runtime. Now here is Visual Studio Code showing a typical Lightning Web component project for use on Salesforce servers. The component name is Pulsar Test and resides down in the Force app main default LWC directory. And here is the Pulsar Test HTML template. The metadata file shows us where this LWC component is to be deployed on Salesforce servers. And here is the JavaScript code that shows us various usages of Salesforce API. So here is an import of @Salesforce user ID. And here we are importing various things from Lightning UI Record API, UI Object Info API, various imports of @Salesforce schemas. And further down here is where we declare our class that extends Lightning Element. You can see we're using @track decorators for dynamic data. We have some @wire decorators here. So with, again, some specific Lightning calls. So this is a fairly typical, if not rather bare bones, Lightning Web component. for interacting with Salesforce data APIs. Now, conveniently, the Lightning Web runtime code and files can coexist in the same project directory under source control as the Lightning Web components themselves. Here we are looking at a pretty typical LWR config JSON file. And here is our package JSON file, which has different sections for LWR scripts, Salesforce command line scripts, and it basically handles both environments. All the modules, which are Lightning Web components themselves of the Pulsar LWR app, live down beneath source modules, Pulsar LWR. And the main entry point is this Pulsar SPA.js file. So it basically just creates client-side routes, and the template is pretty simple. It's a router, LWR router container. So other LWCs get embedded in this. And the first one that basically it loads is what we're calling Bootstrap JS here. And that's really the only purpose here is to bootstrap into Pulsar platform. And once that's done, it specifies Pulsar test as the page to navigate to. And that's why we see the test running in Pulsar. Let's drop to the command line, and I'll show you that deploying to Salesforce is through the familiar SF project deploy start. So you can see the Pulsar test Lightning Web component has deployed successfully. And you may notice that none of the LWR components modules were deployed because they don't live down in the Force app directory. So now let's compile the LWR app for Pulsar. You can see some of this phase is where our modifications to the LWC toolchain come into play. Rewriting and or replacing Salesforce data APIs with our variants that work within Pulsar. So you can see some of that here at Salesforce user ID gets rewritten to our provider. So this built successfully, and it builds into the site directory. So that's where the generated code is. We are still working on a Salesforce command line plugin to more easily build, bundle, and deploy all this build output to your org. It's also worth mentioning that developers can avoid deployment and quickly iterate on code development by enabling the local development mode in Pulsar. So we're still actively developing all of that. Thanks for watching. This has been a tech preview of work being done at Luminix.